Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to thank all of you guys for taking some time out of your busy working week to spend some time with us on this go-to webinar. I will keep it brief. We'll take feedback from you, and we've got a product demonstration to do, but I have got about 5 or 6 slides to go through. So I'm not going to keep you too long on them. We'll spend more time in product. We're going to try and keep this day as interactive as it can be. With all the challenges that we face doing this remotely, we would love to see you face to face at the Belfry, as Neil has already said. But if you have got questions as we go along, do put them down in there, and I'll incorporate some of those answers into the demonstration and be guided by what you want to see as well. So we're quite happy to be fleet of foot to do that. So let's crack on and go through this PowerPoint, and let's keep it as brief as we possibly can. The theme of the PowerPoint and the theme of the keynote is really about not just getting, but accelerating the business value that you can get by using analytics. And we know that that is a particular challenge for a lot of organizations. It's certainly easier said than it is done. For most organizations, this challenge is a real one, and companies struggle to make actionable data available in the very first instance, let alone turn that actionable data into business value. And we've seen studies where companies are only using 10% of their data. That's 10% of business relevant data being analyzed. And putting it into action is really tough as well. Only 32% of executives can create value from data. And it's especially tough when only a quarter of the workforce knows what to do with it. So these studies have said that only 24% of decision makers feel like they have the right data literacy skills to get value from their data. So hopefully this is where we come in. We help organizations take on those complex challenges of transforming their data into business value. And we do that by leveraging the Qlik platform. And there's many aspects to the Qlik platform. We start off with data integration, not a main focus for today, but certainly happy to answer questions that we will be touching on some of it. But this is where you can start to free up and find all of the data that you should be using. We then move that data into the analytics platform. Again, looking at the polls, a lot of you are using Qlik Sense, a few of you using QlikView, some of you not using Qlik at all, but you'll be used to the analytics platform, Qlik Sense, with its associative technology that gives you the freedom to explore your data, understand it, and take action on it. But another important point is supporting individuals and people through that journey. I think our customer success approach, our training, our workshops, tips, tricks, hints, ebooks, OmetisToolkit.com, our consultants' expertise all contribute to helping our customers become better informed and make them more data literate. So this data literacy is needed because of the evolution that we've seen in business intelligence systems and how they're being used. We're currently in this third generation of BI. People that have joined us before for these sessions will have seen this, so I'll keep it brief, but for those that haven't, we started off with this first generation of BI systems that was centrally managed. It was complex stacks of information. Specialists in different areas needed to be involved, and the primary output of that centralized system was just static reports, which is fine. It provides an answer to a known question or a known set of questions, but that led to follow-up questions that were a lot harder to go and answer. Systems were difficult to use. There was extensive training that were needed. They were slow to set up, slow to adapt, slow to turn around the answers, and only 25% of business users ever got any value out of that first generation of BI. And the response to this, of course, was the second generation of BI. This is often referred to as data discovery, and Qlik pioneered the way during this second generation. It ultimately evolved the self-service capabilities for business users, where they would go and select the tool of choice at the different line of business to analyze their data, freeing up exploration rather than just looking at static reports. And this self-service approach maybe hit 50% of business users rather than the 25. And although that's considerably better, I think many organizations have struggled to govern these myriad of tools that they've got in place, and they've lacked a consistent data strategy as part of that second generation. So now this is giving rise, of course, to the third generation, which we're calling the democratized approach, and it builds off the second generation, but firmly believe that organizations can do more and better things with data. They can achieve a fully data-driven state that starts to unlock the potential in their data. And just wanted to give you a couple of examples of organizations that are benefiting from this democratized approach. If you've signed anything electronically in the last decade, it stands a chance that it's come from DocuSign. They're a true leader in their field, but they're also a leader in the use of analytics. Qlik Sense was deployed to DocuSign, and they've enabled over 90% adoption. So think about that in comparison to just that 25% where it was the first generation of BI. We've now got 90% of knowledge workers, users that can make more informed decision based upon the data that they're seeing, and that's a permanent advantage that they will keep with them. They're moving on to Volvo, the Swedish car manufacturer. Their innovation is in safety. They've been able to measure the benefits in their democratized approach through increased customer satisfaction and cost savings. And only by having everybody making informed decisions, insightful decisions, is it possible to balance those two opposing forces. And finally, the NHS that we have there, the National Health Service, they're better able to understand and predict where they'll see large health complex system pressures so that they can better meet the needs of their patients. And I think in these unprecedented times that Neil's talked about already, not just frontline healthcare workers, but all organizations need the best possible tools in place in order to make the right decisions for their business. So why Qlik and not others? And I appreciate that a lot of you are using Qlik already, so you'll know this, but I will mention associative difference, associative technology a fair few times on this keynote and demonstration. Just describing that in the easiest way possible is Qlik's associative difference that they have stops users having tunnel vision when they're looking at their dashboards. It gives users a peripheral view. They can see more, they can know more. And if we take the traditional SQL-based approach, traditional SQL visualization tools, a query is something that is constructed in order to return a positive match to that particular query. It brings back only the data that matches that has been asked of. And that now focuses the user on a very narrow set of results. If we contrast that to Qlik, and you'll see this in the demonstration, because of its associative technology, not only does it return those positive matches, those things that are related to that selection state, but it also adds that layer of peripheral vision where the data that somewhat matches, so that we see in light gray, and the data that doesn't match at all comes through. And you'll see that in the demonstration. Second off, and why you might choose Qlik, is augmented analytics. So this is a second major differentiator for us. And these AI capabilities are being used in all different use cases across the analytics platform. And whether that's conversational analytics being embedded into collaboration tools, or just the ability to have free-form data exploration within a dashboard, or drilling down into a pre-configured dashboard that has been built for you, this AI element is not separate. It's not a black box that sits outside of the system. It's not an add-on feature to the product. It's fully embedded in the platform. And it's built upon that associative technology and the cognitive engine that I'll come on and talk about. We find that that just empowers users to find insights much quicker within their data. And then an important point as well, and we're talking to a couple of customers about this, in these last couple of months, is embedding at the point of decision. So the platform can embed the analytics where it's needed most. It can take the visualizations, the KPIs, the charts that you use in your dashboards, and it can embed them in the systems that people are using on a day-to-day basis. It puts that decision maker in a much better position to make the right decision because they've got all the information to hand. So it leads to agile working and confident decision making. And the fact that Qlik invested in building a analytical platform first is paying dividends. They built the intuitive self-service interface on top of that platform, and that enables people to reach all of the data that they need, but also make those informed decisions, and pushing information out to third parties like customers, vendors, and their partners as well through this embedding capability. So I just wanted to dive deeper into that associative difference very quickly. This is Qlik Sense. This is what we have to shout about. It runs on this associative engine that has been powering Qlik for the last 20 years, and it is unrivaled. It's unmatched. We think about the limitations of SQL and relational databases. We say this each year, but it's still true. And that truth is that relational databases and SQL queries were just not designed to support modern analytics. Most visualization tools rely on this SQL query approach, and that's used for their fundamental architecture for modeling data and supporting the interactive analysis that people have. And I think we just find that this limits users greatly. It limits them in the questions that they can ask. It limits them in the paths that they can explore and the breadth of data sources that they can bring together and combine. And people get stuck with this tunnel vision that I've talked about, where they can only see narrow sets of data and just the values that positively match that query criteria that has been sent to them. So there's no global context to the exploration that they're having. Visualizations don't update together. You can't have good global search. That's all limited, and organizations struggle to fully combine data sources using just SQL joins. Relational databases also suffer by this approach because if you have to run consecutive queries concurrently against a database, there's only going to be performance issues with that. And as you can probably guess, Qlik does things differently. And it's at the heart of the Qlik platform that there is this associative engine, and it's been built from the ground up. There's nothing quite like it. It indexes and understands all of the associations in your data across all of the different data sources. And I think when you see the demonstration today, it will be fair to say that users of all skill levels, including mine, can freely explore the data and get to the answers that they need, right from building that data from scratch as well. And it's because of the associative engine that all the relationships show clearly to the end user. And it's not just returning those positive matches. We can't stress this enough. The hidden insights in your data are often found in the grey data, those things that just do not match your criteria that you've set. Again, we'll touch on that in the demonstration, but it's a really important part of why Qlik is unique. We also combine the associative technology that we have within Qlik with the cognitive engine that I've mentioned. And this adds a layer of artificial intelligence to enhance the ability of people to uncover the insights that they need out of the data. So this Insight Advisor capability in Qlik Sense enhances just about everything that you do across the analytics lifecycle. It generates and suggests insights both visually and associates information for you. It helps end users become better at what they do. And because this associative engine manages a global context, that selection state that I've talked about, at each step of the user's journey through Qlik, it knows all of the data that is associated and also that data that's unrelated within that context. And that can be factored into the machine analysis, making those suggestions more relevant and more insightful. That context awareness combined with algorithmic techniques help users get previously unseen insights. And as I've said, this is unique to Qlik. It's not possible without access to a complete set of enterprise data, the ability to understand the associations within that data, and the right vehicle to explore that, and that vehicle being Qlik Sense. So if analytics is a separate activity, there is a bigger chance that it will fail. It is, in our minds, essential that the analytics occurs at the point of decision. So bringing it back to that, embedding solutions into other applications, physically embedding those analytics into business applications to give better context for the user. Qlik built that analytics platform with open and standard APIs that enables that to happen. So you can put that analytics anywhere. And that can be taken even further by allowing Qlik to directly talk to other engines such as R or Python, so that maybe lay users like myself can benefit from sophisticated models in a real-time way. And just to give an example of that, you might have a user of a CRM system where they can see the analysis on a specific customer, maybe including the likeliness to churn. And that's being driven from an R algorithm and displayed using Qlik Sense visualizations, all embedded in that CRM package, showing other customer information. It empowers the user. I am going to crack on with the demonstration shortly, but just wanted to talk about the innovation that's come along with Qlik Sense since its inception, and we'll just pick out a couple of these. I'm not going to go into all 12 aspects, but if we look at that Insight Advisor, this is the suggestions engine, if you like, or the suggestions provided by that cognitive engine. So that's visual insights, charts and visualizations that are auto-generated and prioritized based upon the data set that's in there. And that gets further refined through a natural language search. Again, we'll show that as we go through some of the demonstration. Those associative insights highlight the most statistically significant information to you of things that are associated, but maybe more importantly, things that are not associated. Moving on to accelerated creation. I noticed that some of you use QlikView. Most of you using Qlik Sense. Don't know what version of Qlik Sense, but I think it's fair to say that using this AI power in order to automate not just data visualizations, but data preparation has enabled the end user to get to insights quicker. Our colleague Chris Lofthouse, who's running one of the workshops a little later on, did a blog on this not too long ago, examining the time that it took to get the same data analysed in Qlik View and then in recent versions of Qlik Sense. Have a look at the blog for yourself, but the results are really interesting. And with each new version, that time it just gets quicker and quicker to analyze that data. Looking at new visualization. So again, since it first started, I think there have been an addition of maybe 15 additional new chart types. There's multi-layered maps for the visualizations, also improvements in that kind of geo-analytics technology that Qlik has, and numerous visualization improvements in all areas like formatting and trend lines on charts, trellising, modifiers, accumulations, and many more. We'll touch on some of them. And finally, maybe touching on data catalog that I will get the chance to demonstrate to you. This is an integrated catalog for users to browse and select the data that they want to gain access to. So it can be a different starting approach for a self-service user. It's optional, it's not mandatory, but we'll touch on that shortly. And then the dynamic view capability gives users the ability to dynamically reload certain charts using advanced data sources like Databricks or Snowflake. So you can have that real-time experience of information sat within a dashboard. And then I think it's apt to just mention quickly enterprise SaaS. So that's what I'll be showing to you now. Again, I notice on the poll that most of you are client managed, or as we like to say, on-premise. But some of you might be running within your own cloud on AWS, Azure, or wherever it might be. But I want to highlight some of the capabilities that sit within Qlik's cloud. So thank you for sitting through that keynote. Hopefully I kept it brief enough for you all to stay joined with us. And I'm now going to go into a demonstration of Qlik Sense. So my eyes will be everywhere because I've got multiple screens, but we'll see different aspects of that good stuff in action. So my starting point for this demonstration is my browser. I happen to use Google Chrome, and we navigate to this Qlik Cloud Hub. So this can be a one-stop shop for all the information that you need. What we can see here, for those of you that are using Qlik Sense, you'll be used to streams. Within Qlik's cloud infrastructure, we use something called spaces. But as I've navigated to this is my landing page, and I can see all of those applications, all the different things. If I go on to links, this really is a great way to enable a hybrid approach. So what you might have in place is Qlik Sense sitting on your infrastructure, so client managed, and some of those applications being pushed up into Qlik's cloud, but not all of them because of data size restrictions or wherever it might be. But if you want a one-stop shop for people to go to one interface to say, where's all my analysis, then you can link back to other external links, as you can see here. And this might be a Qlik Sense application that sits on Qlik's demonstration site on your infrastructure. So people don't have to navigate to different URLs to get that information. If I jump onto apps, then if I scroll to the bottom, again, one or two of you, I think, were using Qlik View or still using Qlik View. Great thing about Qlik's cloud is that we've now got the ability to run a QVW, which is a Qlik View application on Qlik's infrastructure. So this is Qlik View. I'm not going to go into the detail. That's not the area that we're focusing in on today. But again, rather than having to navigate to different areas, you can get to that information that you need from one place. If we then look at charts, this is a great tool for management, I believe. There will be several applications, Qlik Sense applications that people have access to that might be sitting in a cloud environment. And it could be 5 or 6 different KPIs or charts that really want to be monitored on a daily basis. So when you're in an application, you can right click, choose to monitor that chart in the hub, and it will reside there in your area where that data is reloaded. All of this information gets updated real time. I can then click on that chart to view it in more detail, so I get a larger view of that. And obviously I can start my navigation process off by clicking View in Application. So this will take me to that Qlik Sense application where that chart has been selected from. Just to show, I can right click and click Monitoring Hub, which I've already done, but it gives me the other context that I now need around looking at the other charts that support that particular view that we had in the hub, all of the KPIs that are on there. Talked about the associative difference, so let's see it in action. The easiest way to show off some of that associative working is just to make selections, and we don't have lots of fields in play within Qlik Sense because we can interact with all of the charts. So I go and make a selection, and then before I even leave that chart, all of my other charts and KPIs are now in the context of that selection. Everything has got a selection state in place, and those bits of information are updated instantly, not just on the page that we're on, but if I navigate to the next sheet as well, then all of those visualizations have been updated as part of me making that selection as well. Another great way to show some of the associative difference is using search. Now, again, using search means that I don't have to understand the underlying architecture of where this data is coming from. I can just search for the values that are important. And I can see here that snack food is doing quite well. And I know I've got a meeting coming up with our European head of sales. So I can start searching for Europe and cookies. And Qlik will try and finish off that search suggestion for you, but it will also go away and find the best matches. So we can see here that we found Europe in region and cookies in product subcode, but we've also found the word cookies in product description. So I could get really granular with the searching that I want to do and find the data that's relevant. I'm just going to take the first suggestion that's there, and again, the whole dashboard updates in front of you, so you can see that within context. If we then look at what's happened there, we've got selections across the toolbar, across the breadcrumb bar at the top, and we can see that we've got the selection shown in green. So we've selected cookies. I talked about in the presentation the selected out values, or the values in light gray. So these are values in light gray that we've selected out. We've specifically said I'm not selecting those by selecting cookies, but because they're light gray, we know that they do have a somewhat association with Europe and those two companies that I'd selected. As we scroll to the bottom, we get further information that other systems just don't provide you with, and this is the unrelated data. So this is the grayed out data that is not associated with the selection state that I've got in. So this is telling me that within Europe, these two companies were not selling hot dogs and sausages, which might be an area of concern for us if, you know, we're having a conversation with Germany, for instance. So we can get to that information quickly and easily, and by seeing that unrelated data, we get better insight out of the dashboard. Okay, that's some of the associative technology that we've got, but I wanted to focus maybe in on some of the cognitive capabilities as well. So if I release my selection here, I can move on to maybe the next sheet. So again, just seeing some other visualizations that you can put in within Qlik Sense, some of the updates to the visualizations as well. But I can see here in my store sales by company that there are some stores that have got very low, if not zero sales. So By interacting with the chart, I can go and make that selection and try and find out what's going on. And I think that this really does make an important point about that query-based approach and other visualization tools. Effectively, we've sent a query to the system now where we've narrowed down the results that are coming back into the visualization. So this is working like your Tableaus, like your Power BIs, like your other visualization tools at this point in time. And I'm getting a limited amount of insight from that selection. It's not telling me much. It's not allowing me to really understand what's going on there. But because Qlik enables you to see more, we can go on to selections and we can understand what selections have been made in green. We can see the light gray that's in there as well. We can also see the white data. So that is the associated values with that selection state across all the different fields that are in there, along with the gray data that's unrelated. So this cognitive engine now has been running in the background, and it's allowing me to look at the different measures that we have in place and giving me that statistically significant insights that I talked about during the PowerPoint. And those things that are related just don't help. In this instance, it's telling me that this contributes nothing towards our sales margin amount. Now, if you were stuck with that alone, then you're off onto a separate search and trying to find different things out. But because Qlik gives you the hidden insights, that information about the grey data, we can scroll down and we can start seeing that only only 2 out of the 20 different product groups are being sold into those stores. And maybe just as importantly, only 21 out of my 927 sales reps are actually selling into those stores. So we've gone from, and I can go and see that by revealing the data. I can see those, I can apply that as my next search criteria. I can contact those salespeople, I can speak to their managers, I can find out what's going on. So we've gone really from identifying something that looked a little bit odd to actually being able to take specific action within the dashboard to hopefully rectifying a problem that we might find. So that's a little bit of insight into the associative capabilities and the cognitive capabilities that sit within a dashboard. And we will come back to that, but I wanted to take that back a step now and build you a dashboard from scratch using some of those associative and cognitive capabilities that sit within the Qlik platform. Now, my starting point for that is going to be Qlik Data Catalyst, a Qlik catalog. Essentially, this is a shop front to all of the data that sits within your organization, whether that be different data sources, but also its QVDs. Now, again, lots of people on this webinar today will be existing users of Qlik, and you will have no doubt face the challenge of working with QVDs. They are very powerful and they're optimized for loading data, and they're a fantastic way to get information into Qlik, but there's not always a great way to store those QVDs. You might put them in 2 different folders. What Qlik Catalog offers is a way for you to put quantitative measures against those QVDs. So I can just search for QVDs, and all of our QVDs become accessible there with all of the quantitative measures, and I can get some further information about that QVD in place. So maybe looking at some of the metadata that sits around that QVD. If I go back, I think one of the great things about that is that it unlocks the data that has previously been just a preserve of Qlik Sense or Qlik View. So once you have these QVDs within Qlik Data Catalyst, that information can then be pushed to other visualization tools. And we're not here to promote Tableau or Power BI today at all, but we do need to talk about the agnostic way that some of the Qlik data integration tools work, and they enable you to get information out to the visualization tool of your choice. hopefully the visualization tool of your choice is Qlik Sense, of course. But we've got this Amazon-like experience where I can go and search for the data that's important to me. So if I wanted to look at sales data, I do a simple search, and I then get this information presented back to me. So if we're going to focus in on this SAP data, we've got information that tells me about the quality and the popularity of that data. It's used quite a lot in this organization. But again, if we delve a little bit deeper and view that entity, then we can look at the lineage of that data. So by doing that, we get a visual representation of where that data has come from and how it's come to be sat within a QVD. So we can see here, I'm just going to change this to maybe 7 levels deep and update the levels. So we can see that this data originates in our SAP database. It comes through to Qlik Replicate, and it probably comes through using what we call CDC, so change data capture. This is where Qlik Replicate, this is part of Qlik's data integration platform, will look at the log files that are being generated from updates, modifications, deletions that are going on within the SAP system. And it will take those log file changes every time that they are made, and it will push that information through, in this case, to Qlik Compose. So another part of the data integration platform where Qlik enables the ability to transform that data, get it business ready, and automatically populate data warehouses. So it's not just taking the data and putting it into a holding area where you've got a separate process in order to populate that data warehouse. It's actually doing that automation process for you. So in this case, it's going through to Snowflake, but it could be that this is going through to a SQL data warehouse or going through to Databricks or wherever that might be. We then follow that all the way through, and it eventually creates a claims QVD. But essentially, some of that information, as you can see here, is being pushed out to Tableau Desktop, for instance. So we can see the full lineage of what's happening with that data. If I step back a stage, then we can see the sample data that's coming out of that SAP sales. So what we can see here is the breadth and depth of that data to make sure it is the information that we want. We've got different output options for that data that, we probably won't use in this instance, but what we could possibly use is Qlik Catalog's integrated capability to get that into the tool of choice. So I'm going to add this to my cart, and I could add multiple data sources, multiple entries into the cart, and then once I've done that, I can take action on that data that sits within the catalog that I've got here. So the actions here, as you can see, we can publish that to Power BI, we can publish it to Tableau Desktop. Obviously, what I'm interested in is publishing this data set to my Qlik Cloud Services data files area. So this is a great place where you might start your self-service journey off if you need a cataloging function because of the amount of data that you have, the amount of different data sources and maybe QVDs that you've got. It's also great if you want to make that locked in QVD data available to other visualization tools that you use in your organization. So I'm going to jump back into the Qlik Cloud platform now and jump back to the hub, and we'll take that a little bit further. So if I go into my personal area and look at the apps that I've got, I have a QAT Ometis app. So we're going to open that application up. And what Qlik wants you to do is say, where am I going to get my data from in order to build visualizations, to build this dashboard? So as I click on that, it will open up all of the different connectors that we've got available to us at that point in time. Now, just to make a point here as well, my colleague Alex Walker, who is also running one of the workshops this afternoon, wrote a great blog about a couple of weeks ago, on a new tool that has been released by Qlik called Qlik Data Transfer. And if you are thinking about getting your data into the cloud, utilizing Qlik's infrastructure for some of that processing, using some of the functionality that I've shown already or that I'm going on to show, then Qlik Data Transfer is an ideal tool to help that, because there might be some restrictions about I have to open up the VPN and connect, or if we've got firewall issues. Qlik Data Transfer, and I do urge you to go and read this blog, is a utility that you can install on your local server that will help you push data from your client managed, from your on-premise setup. It will push that data in different formats up to the cloud, and that could be a QVD format where you're left to do your transformation of that data in the cloud. So have a look at that blog, really interesting and a great free tool that Qlik have provided. In this instance, we've pushed out data from Qlik Data Catalyst to the data files that sit in Qlik Cloud Services. So I'm going to look at those data files, and we can see that SAP sales and distribution data. So I'm going to select that, and of course I can make some modifications at this point in time, including fields, excluding fields, and renaming them. But right now, I just want to answer a few questions about that data. So I'm going to put it into Qlik, and I'm going to try and answer some of those questions as quickly as possible. So 8 seconds has been done, and now I'm going to jump straight into insights. So again, this is the cognitive engine working, where what it can do is generate insights for you. So being a lazy user, maybe, I want Qlik to do some of that thinking for me. So by clicking on generate insights, it's pushing all of that data set through the cognitive engine, and it's returning to me some visualizations that might make my life easier. It's interpreted that data and enabled me to add things straight away. So I can see this kind of multi-layered map that's summing up sales and cost of sale by country and city, and that could be interesting. So I'm going to add that to my sheet. So quickly and easily, we've started the build of our dashboard, and I can take that further by saying, well, I want to get a bit more focused in. So I'm going to look at customers, and I want to look at sales by customer. So we can make selections on the data sets, the fields that we have available to us. And again, Qlik will generate those insights for us. And I can see that we have a nice, simple looking bar chart here. If I expand that out, I can interact with that as well. So I might just want to look at our top 10 sales, top 10 customers within sales at this point in time. So we're a bit more focused in. And I can see that, it's done sum of sales. And this is something that I'll want to use on a regular basis. So this is a best practice approach for us as well, because we can see the sum of sales working in action by looking at it on a chart. So I'm going to create a master item from what I know is already working. And we can add that as new, and I don't want a label expression in there. We'll call it sales, and we've created our master measure. Now, I could have started that process off in a different area within master items and then added it to a chart, but you don't always know if that's the right formula that you've used, the right calculation. So this is a best practice way of creating master measures. We can see some details about what we learned there. We learned that sales is a measure. So this is Qlik's machine learning, taking all of this into account so that it can offer up better suggestions as you get deeper and deeper into the build of that dashboard. Again, I'm going to add that to my sheet and then jump back into the sheet there. I'm also going to take a very quick drink. So we are halfway through building our dashboard here. And what we might want to do is add some additional data into this dashboard build. So I can jump into my data manager, and this really is well, I suppose it focuses our minds on this non-linear approach that Qlik has. We've got the ability to add data into a dashboard, build some visualizations on it, understand that we need to add more data in, and then go and get that additional data to bolster the building of that dashboard without pushing everything through a data warehouse. So at this point in time, I'm going to add some additional data from my data files, and we'll add some more sales and order data. This has several tables that are sat within it, so I'm just going to select those tables and say I want to bring all of that data through, so we can add that data. And going back to the presentation that we did, I talked about you know, the cognitive capabilities and the associative technology. That's this is an ideal place to talk about that. If I select that sales data, Qlik starts making suggestions for me about how I might want to associate that data. And notice I'm not joining that sales table onto any other tables, I'm associating it. There is a world of difference between those two things that makes Qlik different to the other visualization tools. So we can't stress that enough, but I can see here that the green circles going around show me where the best matches are for association, and the orange or amber colors give me the secondary associations that I could make. Qlik has offered a load of suggestions up for me, so I'm just going to preview those suggestions. And I can see it's created that data model. Now this is going to work because it's a canned demonstration, but try this out with your own data. People that have used Qlik Sense before see this working and happening. I'm going to apply all of those suggestions as well. Now, at any point in time, if I wanted to see how sales is related to products, I can click on the rivet and I can understand that. I can see what other options were available for making that association, or I can make my own custom association if I know better than the system. So we're not saying that this is a closed off black box. You have to trust everything that Qlik does. It's working hand in hand with the end user, making that end user more proficient, and you helping the system understand things better as well. So at that point in time, I'm just going to load that additional data into the dashboard that we've already got. So it's creating all the search indexes at this point in time. So another 9 seconds and we're back into editing the sheet. So we're now in edit mode in the browser of our Qlik Sense dashboard, and I'm going to reuse that master measure that we created earlier. So I drag and drop it onto the screen. Hopefully you can see that update. I'm just going to pause a second and hope there's not, there we go. Hope there's not too many internet connections that I'm having, internet issues that I'm having. But we can see that because we have chart suggestions put on, Qlik has selected to use a KPI to represent that measure. So again, it's using its cognitive engine, its cognitive capabilities in order to help the end user. I want to do a little bit more analysis than just have a KPI on there. So I can go to the available fields. I'm going to focus down on a particular table, and I'm going to look at order date. And if I just scroll down there, I want to add year quarter to this particular KPI. And again, because I've got these chart suggestions switched on, Qlik selects for me the most appropriate visualization, where I can look at other offerings as to how we want to present that data, or I can just accept that suggestion that it's given to me. I'm going to switch chart suggestions off now and get into a bit more granular detail about those additions that I talked about. So if we turn off chart suggestions, we mentioned trellising and trend lines and things like that. So under this measure of sales, if I explode that out, I've got the ability to quickly and easily add a trend line to my chart without doing complex calculations. I can add an average trend line. So there we see the average, and we can see the fluctuations of our actuals against the average. We've got different average types as well. So if you wanted that being linear or fourth degree polynomial, then you can put those averages in. For this, I just want to see those fluctuations against what's the averages across the 4 years of data that we've got in there. We can also change the colors, dash lines, all those formatting capabilities. Another thing that I mentioned was modifiers. So what a modifier will allow you to do is change how a measure is calculated based upon the dimensions that are within the chart. So in this modifier, I could simply just put an accumulation on. Now that sometimes could have been a difficult bit of coding or calculation, but I could say I want accumulation and I want that a full accumulation, and we can see exactly what's going on. We've got all different options there about moving averages, custom accumulation over different steps. But in this instance, I'm just going to leave the modifier out of that. So we're almost through building our dashboard, or the first sheet of our dashboard, should I say. And I'm going to jump back to the insights, the insight advisor, if you like, in order to finish that off. One of the things that I mentioned was the natural language processing capabilities that sit within Qlik. So what we can do is ask questions of the data without typing. So what I might say is sales and margin by customer for 2017 and 2019. So that suits me down to the ground because I don't like typing. So we can ask these questions of this cognitive engine, this natural language processing, and get insights back really quickly. I'm going to build on top of this shortly, but you can build trust from system to end user through doing this. If I click on the information that's associated with that, then Qlik has used that measure that we created. It's picked up sales. It's also found margin and customer in the fields. Now, if this were a production dashboard, I probably would have gone to the effort of creating a whole load of master measures and a whole load of master dimensions, and it would be using those. It's also using order date and applying a filter from the 1st of the 1st 2017 to the end of that year, and the 1st of the 1st 2019 to the end of that year. So it's now excluding 2018 and 2020. It's giving me exactly what I asked for, and I might not have known how to create that particular calculation through the set analysis or the formulas that you put in within Qlik Sense. But that doesn't matter because Qlik has done that for me. So I'm going to add that to my sheet. I'm going to navigate back now to the sheet. I'm conscious of time as well, so but I don't want to rush the product demo because you all wanted to see the product demo. Nobody wanted to see the keynote, but I'm done editing now. So I finished the first sheet of my dashboard, and because everything stays in context, if I release my filter of customers there, everything updates within the selection state or the non-selection state that I have. So we can see that update real time. Quick, easy insights out of data that's been sitting in our organization through that catalog. I'm going to jump back to the hub because this is something that I want to share with other people now. So if I go back to the hub, and the hub is behaving very slowly for me. But what we have here is our QAT Ometis hub, Ometis application sitting in the hub. Click on the burger bar or the ellipsis there. We've got the ability to do different things with that application now. So we can move it, duplicate it, make edits to it. We can set a reload schedule of that if we want to pull that data through on a regular basis. But I can as well just publish that. So I can publish that now to a different space where people have access to that. So pushing that through then gives other people the ability to go and interact with that application. If I then navigate through to that managed space, we can see our QAT. We can start to see, you know, the members that are within there as well. So we got, you know, about 60 odd members in there. I can see the roles that they have within that space to see how they can interact with that and how they can manage that. And I can also go and change those permissions and add members if I have the permissions to do so myself. Final thing that I want to cover as part of this demonstration is something that is sat within the Qlik Cloud service. It does become available to our client managed, our on-premise users later on this year. But if you are using Qlik Sense Cloud environment, if you are interested in using Qlik Sense Cloud environment, then you get this functionality included within that. So it's Ask Insight Advisor, and it builds on top of that natural language processing that we showed within an application. In this instance, you don't have to be in a specific application. You can look at the different apps that are available to you. This is just a demo environment, so there's only a couple there. We're going to focus in on that app that I've been demoing on to start with, and that will present to you all of the different measures that we have available. So this helps the end user not forget what's in that application. We could simply just start typing in a question there, and Qlik Advisor chat might ask, we've got this data in several applications, which one do you want to use? I can click on dimensions, I can click on help to give me some help, but the dimensions show me what's been set up in there, so I can start asking some simple questions about that application. What is my margin percentage? So again, rather than typing in and doing that on the keyboard, I'm going to use the microphone there in order to ask some simple questions. And first time round, Qlik takes a bit of time to generate the relevant information, but it's calculating other things at that point in time because it knows that you're going to ask further questions of that data. It confirms back for me what my question was, building up that trust, and it gives me the answer to that. Our margin percentage is just 12. Yeah, not the greatest, or maybe brilliant, depends on what industry you're in, I guess. Show me sales by company. So this time round, I'm asking it to show me something. So I'm expecting it to come back with a chart. And this is a chart that you've seen already in the dashboard, one that we made our first selection on. And it's presented that information back to me with the most relevant chart. Show me sales by country. So if I ask a similar question, but I'm asking for it over country, again, I expect Qlik to present that information back to me with the most relevant chart. And I can see a map now, but I also get this additional information telling me what the total sales amount is, because I couldn't see that quite so easily from just looking at the chart. We take that maybe a step further. How many product codes are in perishable level low? So what Qlik will do here is not just give me a KPI back of the perishable level low, it's going to offer up more information to me. So I get the bar chart again showing me the breakdown of all of my products and the perishable level that they're in. It gives me additional information saying that we've got just under 2,000 product codes in our product set. 60% of them are in the low perishable level. So maybe that's a good thing. We haven't got too many in the high perishable level there. But what it will also do is give you that anomaly data. So we've got one product code that is not associated to a perishable level. And that's something I can take back upstream with those users that are setting up the system to say, okay, can we get this sorted out, because we've got a data quality issue now as well. So the final thing I'll maybe ask of this is, show me sales and number of units for 2018 excluding Germany. So again, demonstration data, but you will have an idea of the type of questions that you might want to ask. We get it confirmed back to us. It's intuitive, it's easy, it's presenting me back with the scatter plot that's showing me sales, showing me number of units. I can see all of my countries plotted. I don't see Germany in there. We've got a date filter. Excellent. I'm going to explore this further. So when you explore that further, it will navigate back to the application where it's got that information from. It will put that information into the Insight Advisor, where you could have done this, but obviously we're doing it outside of the application in the advisor chat. And then there we know that we can go and create those master measures that are needed. We can add that to the sheet. We can see other visualizations within context to that filter and take things as far as we need to as part of our analysis.